So this is a subject that I really wanted to present at this event because it's one thing that I'm incredibly passionate about. Because without a sale, everything else that we've talked about doesn't happen. There's no money to budget. There's no reason to have traction. There's no reason to have route trucks. Somebody's got to go out and make a sale in order for anybody else to do their job. So I feel like that I'm a really decent candidate to be able to present this because I am not some classroom sales guy. I have been on the street since I was old enough to walk. Outside of working at McDonald's, I have been in some form of sales most of my life. So I want to take a second and tell you why I feel like I can stand up here and talk about sales, because these are things that I've learned. So the first thing is I had a small embroidery business with my wife. We grew it to about $2.5 million in sales. It was a niche company, did really well with it. I loved it so much that I let her have it in the divorce because I didn't want to pay alimony. But being a small business owner, I learned how to cover a payroll. I know what it's like on Wednesday and having $8,000 in my operating account, and I got to cover a $12,000 payroll on Friday. You talk about sleepless nights. I understand what that's like. Then I went to work for Infinity Athletic. They're a women's athletic company. They literally started with one product. It was a competitive cheerleading shoe. When I started with them, they were doing $1.5 million in sales. By the time I left, we had grown the company to $7 million. The last year I was there, we lost our biggest customer, who was Varsity Athletic, which owns about 80% of the cheerleading market. And not only did we lose our biggest customer, they also became our biggest competitor because they started making their own shoe. And the last year we were there, we changed our business model and started opening up smaller distributors as opposed to limited distribution. And we were able to actually grow the company by 5% the last year after losing our biggest customer. And then before Lightspeed, I was a vice president of sales at Rebel Athletic. That was a startup uniform company in Dallas, Texas. So I've known Randy Smith for 30 years. We worked together at Racetrack Petroleum back in the day. And he was in Dallas, Texas 3 years ago, went to dinner, and after about 4 vodkas convinced me to come back to Atlanta and join forces here at Lightspeed. But before that, at Rebel, one of my accounts that I got to call on was the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders. And literally 45 days before that dinner with Randy, I had been asked and was happy to oblige to be a judge on the Dallas Cowboy auditions, part of the big TV show that they do. And for 2 weekends, I was part of a TV show looking at absolutely beautiful girls that wanted to be Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. And yet somehow he convinced me to leave that and come to work in the vending world. And quite honestly, it's been a great experience for me. I absolutely love this industry. The people I've met in this industry are just remarkable. So I have 3 things I want to do today. One, sales is not hard. It should be simple. There's a lot of details involved. There's a lot of steps involved, but it's not hard. You want to buy this? Great. Give me money. Here's a sale. Now, we're not talking about making a sale to the vending machine. I'm talking about going into an account, making a sales presentation because you want them to do business with your company. By the way, it was pointed out last night, we have 7 companies here from the state of Missouri. 7. That's remarkable. I didn't realize we had that much coverage in the state of Missouri. But I guess it's a show-me state for a reason, right? The second objective is to go provide the tools that are needed to really successfully manage an outside sales force. And we're going to talk about 2 different types of sales. One, smaller companies, no outside sales guys. Bigger companies with outside sales guys. And third, we're going to create a sales profile and go through the kind of qualities that you want to look for in a salesperson. And I have really specific things that I look for when I'm trying to hire someone, and I'll walk you through some of the things that I look for. Now, in my life, I have developed these 5 common sense principles when it comes to selling. And they're not hard. I didn't learn them from anybody else. I learned them from getting doors slammed in my face and getting told no. Every time you get told no on a sale, it's like junior high school prom all over again when Jill Reeve said no. The 3rd time. You don't ever stop asking, but it doesn't mean they change their mind. So I want to walk through some of the things that I believe that are very important. And the first one is nobody wants to be sold. the term almost has a negative connotation to it. People have personal space issues. If I get this close to you and talk to you, you back up. Nobody wants somebody in their face to be sold. To me, it's the most fundamental thing in the world. When's the last time you actually took a phone call from a telemarketer at dinner? Hey, I'm glad you called. Never. Did you buy a car from this guy? Or this guy? When you hear somebody say, I got sold something, it is almost always a negative connotation. It's almost always, I feel dirty. I feel like I got taken advantage of. When I did this presentation at CTW, there were 2 publications in the audience that absolutely destroyed me afterwards. But I still believe these things. Telemarketing doesn't work. I'll say it one more time. How many people actually answer the phone if you don't recognize the caller ID? If they're not on your phone, you're not going to answer. Unless you're a sales guy and you've been prospecting in California and it's a 902 area code. Yes. Door to door. I had a gentleman in the audience that day that took me to task on this because he built his business going door to door. And I understand that. And I'm not saying door to door is not effective. I'm just saying it's lost its effectiveness. When's the last time you opened the door and you were happy to see the guy there selling something? It just doesn't. Yeah. I mean, I have literally walked up to the door, peeked out the window, and turned and walked back because I didn't want to answer the door. Direct marketing. The direct marketing industry back in the 90s was just billions and billions and billions of dollars. Now we sort mail over the trash can. I've gotten 6 postcards from dentists in the last 30 days. My wife and I just bought a new house, just moved in a new area. I've gotten every postcard you can imagine from every kind of business that is trying to solicit us. And we literally stand over the trash can and sort the mail. We don't even get bills sent to us anymore. Everything's paid online. I could leave the country for a year and never miss a payment on a bill because everything's done automatically. I don't remember the last time I got something in the mail that I actually wanted. Print advertising. This is what they jumped on me. If I'm a small operator at a market and I want to solicit customers that want vending machines, I think it's a waste of money to put all of your money in a print ad. I don't remember ever responding to an ad. Now that doesn't mean you haven't had success with that. And I'm going to tell you what I think you should put your money in shortly. But this is one of the methods of advertising, in my opinion, that has gone away. Now we do banner ads and we do a lot of advertising with Vending Market Watch online, but as far as print ads, we don't do them anymore. There is one time when somebody knocks on the door that I'm happy. When they come in selling Girl Scout cookies, I can't say no. There's nothing better than eating an entire sleeve of Thin Mints in one sitting, especially when they're frozen. Because they come in, you put them in the freezer, you forget about them, then you're watching college football on a Saturday morning and you get the munchies. Yes, I have eaten an entire box of Thin Mints on a Saturday. Sales principle number 2, facts tell and stories sell. I've had the privilege of meeting most of you in here, and I know most of your stories. I don't ever remember meeting somebody going, oh my God, that's the worst story in my entire life. You all have fascinating stories. Some are 2nd generation owners, some are 3rd generation owners. Some people get in the business like Vic, who goes from Flint, Michigan to Bainbridge, Georgia, driving a Pepsi truck. Who goes to college and says, I want to grow up to be a route driver? Nobody does. Mr. Rogers carried a quote around in his wallet that said, there isn't anyone that you can't learn to love once you've heard their story. And the purpose of what we're going to move toward is at the heart of a sales presentation is you're telling your story. I told you my story when we started today. Hopefully my story before we started gave me a tiny bit of credibility that when I'm talking to you from a standpoint of this is how I would sell, then I have your attention. You don't have to believe me, but I felt the need to tell you my story before we started. To me, and this is my quote, I don't think there's anything more powerful in your sales presentation than your story. And the better you get at telling your story, the better you're going to get at closing deals. I could almost go through the room right now and come close to telling everybody what your story is. And I think customers relate to that. Customers gravitate toward people that they like, and we'll talk about that in just a second. They connect three ways: a third they hear, a third they see, and a third that they feel in their hearts. How could you not want to do business with a guy like Mike Brown, who went through prostate cancer? And Mike didn't grow up in the vending business. He came into it from the outside and actually bought the business. Great guy. But you gravitate toward people that you like. To me, stories that create the emotional bond that allows a prospect to drop their radar. Going back to this, right? Nobody wants to be confronted. How do you get them to drop their guard and listen to what you're saying? Tell them a story. I'm going to tell you a few stories today, too. It's amazing to me how I have made purchases in my life and then gone back and justified why I did it, instead of the other way around. Vic was talking about one of his sons has to have all the facts before he makes a decision. Not with me. If I see a shiny new toy and I want it, is that 350 Taylor driver going to make me hit the ball any further? Probably not. And I regret it afterwards. But when I see what Dustin Johnson can do with it, why can't I do that? More decisions are made with emotions than fact. Stories have beginning, middles, and ends. And the problem with a bad story is you don't have an ending to it. People get started really good, they've got a middle, and then they don't know when to cut it off because it's got to have an end to it. Give them 2 plus 2. Don't give them 4. Let them make their own conclusions. Some of the greatest storytellers in our generation work in Hollywood. And how many times have you gone to a movie and you walked out of it and went, why did it end that way? They're letting you fill in the blanks. I'm just as disappointed with the ending of The Sopranos as everybody else is. Or the ending of Seinfeld. But we all get to make our own decisions when you give them parts of the story and let them make their conclusions. So I told this story at CTW, and it has absolutely nothing to do with vending. But to me, it's a great way to learn a couple of lessons. So I grew up in North Carolina, and there was this family, the Flanagans, that lived on our street. They were from England. He was an engineer or something and worked at a factory in town and never traveled. So the two of them went to bed every single night together. So their kids got together and gave them a 50th wedding anniversary when they hit that milestone. Big party, everybody was happy, everybody enjoyed it. They got ready to go to bed, and they went through the same routine they've done every night for 50 years. Because they were from England, fixed a little tea, had bread and jam. So Mr. Flanagan did what he always did. Put the tea on, put the jam on the bread, handed it to his wife. And she just broke down in tears, just bawling. And he looks at her and says, honey, what's wrong? She said, after 50 years, you would think just once you wouldn't give me the end piece. And he looks at her and he goes, but sweetie, that's my favorite piece. Lack of communication. Another man sacrificing his life for a woman who didn't realize it. There's a lot of takeaways. First of all, who wants the end piece? We got, as always, one in every crowd. The purpose of the story is to create the emotional bond that makes your prospect comfortable with dealing with you. Because behind Lightspeed is Randy Smith and Jason Leach. And it's up to us. I have told Randy's story 1,000,000 times. I've probably told his story more than he has told his story on how he got into Lightspeed. And I probably, because it's not my story, I can expand on that just a little bit and not feel guilty. Business should feel like a friendship with profit. And Jim's book, Relationship Selling, is absolutely brilliant. Common sense principle number 3. Don't sell to people that aren't going to buy. How effective am I going to be as a salesperson if I'm calling on a two-route operator that is never going to invest in a VMS? It's amazing to me how we fish in ponds that don't have the fish that we want to buy. When's the last time you actually went through your customer base and went to some of your higher volume customers and really found out why they were a high volume customer? I was in a micro market, and one of our customers up in Chattanooga, there's a factory. They made railroad cars, tankers. And I was in there helping install a vision board when it was break. I mean, people came from everywhere. They had 12 microwaves. I mean, people were in there eating just like this. And nobody was talking to each other. They came in, they sat down, they ate. They weren't even there 15 minutes. I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is a really good account. Blue collar, hardworking people. And the driver looks at me that was stocking the market. He goes, no. He said they're on a quota. They have to build 2 cars every 24 hours. So that market was driven because of the fact that people didn't have time to stop. Not who they were, not the fact they were welders, but just because they only had 10 minutes to eat. They didn't even have time to warm some of their food up. So the first step in developing a good sales strategy to determine who your ideal customer is. This is Lightspeed's. Distributors and manufacturers who pick a large number of SKUs on a daily basis using manual or complicated processes, creating pain points due to mistakes, complexity, and excess labor. Number 1 reason people buy Lightspeed's overtime. Number 2 reason is mistakes. We can fix those problems. Who's your ideal customer? I just said this. Have you done a deep dive? Do you know why your good customers are good customers? What is it about them that make them good? Do we create customer profiles? When you're sitting down going, okay, I want to go sell and expand my business, what kind of customer do you want? I know we talk about with markets. Some people only want 150 people in the market. Others will go down to 100. I've heard some say as low as 75. Now they've got nano markets that you can go into 25 office. The people I saw in San Francisco at Bite Foods, they'll go into a 15-person office. But they're selling $12 salads. And there's nothing in their cooler that I would eat, but their customer, who is a millennial, who likes the technology, who doesn't have to talk to anybody, doesn't care. Who is your ideal customer? And what is their profile? And are you fishing someplace where you don't need to go? I know a lot of you guys have talked about you've got accounts that you have to drive extra for. And sometimes you have to drive extra because it's a national account to get this one. You've got to do that. I mean, I realize that there are things that you can't control. But out of the things that you can control, what kind of customer do you want? I mean, if you look around this room, we've got a very diverse group of customers here. This is from the National Sales Executive Association. This number blew me away. 2% of sales are made on the first contact, 3% are made on the second contact, 80% are made on the 5th to 12th contact. How many people follow up with prospects more than 5 times? We have 1, 2. If you're in my pipeline, you will never stop hearing from me. 10% of salespeople never make more than 3 contacts. That is disturbing. That's grounds for being fired. 10% of salespeople never make more than 3 calls. Common sense principle number 4. Your customers are your best salespeople. Rod Nestor at Smith Vending has sold more Lightspeeds than I ever will. Get a phone call. Hey, I was talking to Rod. Oh, boom, done. I don't have to sell. Rod's already done it for me. People buy from who they know, who they like, who they trust. I travel a lot. One of the issues I have when I travel is where do I put my cell phone and watch the GPS in a rental car? So I was looking to buy some kind of easy to carry contraption that I could put my cell phone in the car. I spent 3 hours on Amazon reading reviews. When did Jack Black 69 have to influence my decision? I don't know who this guy is. But if he didn't like the product, I moved on to the next one. They buy from who they know, who they like, and who they trust. Your customers are your best salespeople. Again, when Rod Nestor tells our story, I don't have to sell very hard. That he's already provided the validation that the customer needs in order to make the purchase from us. And we don't sell cheap products. I'm not selling a $1.50 Coke. We're selling $20,000, $40,000 systems. Again, they need your stamp of approval. So again, these reviews online, whether they're true or not, I might be the only one that does that. But I read reviews on products before I'll buy it. How many testimonials from your customers do you have on your websites? I can promise you that people who come to Lightspeed spend an awful lot of time looking at all the video testimonials that we have, because we can track that through Google. We know how many hits that we get. How many video testimonials do you guys have on your website? Reading it's one thing. Hearing it and seeing it is a different one, is even more powerful. I don't know. I don't know the IP addresses where they come from. And again, we'll capture a lot of you guys at lunch today, and I'm going to hopefully get 10 or 12 good testimonials today. And when's the last time you actually asked for a referral? I mean, I can't sell any more systems in Missouri, but or Michigan. I mean, you guys are pretty covered. But if I wanted to sell, if I had a customer in California and said, hey, can you give me a couple of referrals in California? I'm pretty sure I could get a couple. Incentivizing your customers is a great way to grow your business. Some ways to do that are gift cards, free product for the office, travel certificates. You can go online and buy a certificate for a free vacation to Hawaii for like $500. Lots of ways to incentivize your customers. And I wouldn't give them cash. Then you get into, just ask Rick Pitino about cash. How much money did you tell me he made out of that deal?
I heard like
100 million. Yeah.
It was 98% total contract.
Yeah. Okay. Don't give cash. Whatever it choose, it has to be meaningful and sincere. If you do the travel certificate and they can only go like 4 days out of the year, and they've got to drive to a port in, Mexico, make it worth their while. It's got to be meaningful, and it's got to really be a reward. Last principle, everybody loves a party. I believe event marketing is the most powerful way for you to grow your business. This is a perfect example of event marketing. I have a group of our customers here who all bought plane tickets and paid for hotels to come and visit with Lightspeed. I could see us taking this event and growing it now that we have a report that will give you visibility what your pick rates ought to look like. I could see this next year being Warehouse Awards, Black Tie Affair, bring your spouse, and oh, by the way, if you bring another vending customer with you who's not a Lightspeed customer, I'll waive your annual next year. Yes, I'm sure, Randy. Yes. Let me duck. I mean, think about it. If we got 15 prospects to come to an event like this that weren't Lightspeed customers, and you got a year's worth of annual for it, I only have to sell 3 systems to break even. Invest in a high-quality event. Don't go cheap. I think we tried to do a good job with that. Other than serving a little too much fried chicken, I think it's been pretty good. You get a higher return on your investment. You get an opportunity to talk one-on-one. You get pre-qualified prospects when your customers bring them to you. And you get to tell your story to a lot of people at one time. I've heard Vic do the Peppy hair lip story at least 5 times. And every time he tells it, it's the exact same way. I can't do the hair lip thing. I have enough problems with English. But imagine he just got a chance to tell his story to a group of people one time, as opposed to him going through and telling everybody individually. Great events take a lot more than a year to pay dividends. If you're going to invest in it, you got to invest in it. This was a significant investment for Lightspeed. We cut back 80% of our advertising and put it into this. So we're putting our money where our mouth is. We felt like this was a great investment in our customers. And we've kept our word. We haven't sold anything yet, We're not going to sell anything yet. I've had a lot of conversations with some of you about expanding your systems. You've learned from other people. Hopefully Brian convinced him to buy lights.
That's their relationship. I don't see how we can do it the way we do it without.
Okay, we're not selling. Thank you, though. Don't skip on the budget. Put the money into the event. Make it exciting. Make it something that people want to come to. Make it appeal to your target customer. I don't know much about millennials. I learned as much about millennials yesterday as you guys did from Hector. But if they're going to make up 50% of the workforce in the next 2.5 years, we all need to learn how to woo them, which is hard when they don't want to talk to you. I don't know how many of you guys are on LinkedIn. I read LinkedIn on a daily basis. One of the big trends that millennials are pushing is how they buy wine. When I was coming up, because I'm a baby boomer, buying wine in a box was an acceptable practice. I would take a date out and buy her Boone's Farm strawberry wine, thinking I was a big guy, right? Wine and dine. You? Strawberry Hill, Boone's Farm. That, right? And then the X generation were snobs. We're not going to buy wine in a box. Well, guess what? Millennials are buying wine in a box again. So if that's going to be a significant part of our customer base, how are we going to learn to attract them and woo them? Nobody wants to be sold. Facts tell, stories sell. Don't sell to people who won't buy. Your customers are the best salespeople. I seriously think if I asked you right now to pull out a pen and write down one lead for me, most of you would do it. And everybody loves a party. Simple. So we're going to now develop a simple 2-step sales process. Use your customers to do your prospecting. Use your story to close the deal. Not hard. So here's a 1-page sales strategy. We're going to create an event. Lots of ways to create an event. You want to get women? Throw a little black dress party. Every woman I know has a black dress in her closet. Loves to wear it. Most women don't ever get to wear a little black dress anymore. How many of you actually gone to the NAMA DC fly-in? Right? I know a lot of you have because I've seen you there. For those of you who haven't go, we end the event in the state capitol. Black Tie brings in all kinds of vending machine, and it's free vend. You cannot move in that building, in that room. It is packed full of people that come down and get as much stuff as they can carry and go back to their office. Last year, my wife and I were sitting in the cafeteria, and I looked over, and there was a young woman who obviously was a millennial. In the center of her table, while she's eating her salad from the cafeteria, there is a stack of snacks. Why couldn't you do a little black dress party with vending machines? I don't see anything wrong with that. Some examples. Golf tournament. I played in 5 Stars Golf Tournament in Nashville a couple weeks ago for their customers. Easy way. Hey, come, bring prospects. Trivia night. Bars have been incredibly genius at creating trivia night. I drink more beer playing trivia than I do watching football. Bowling, little black dress, fashion show, 5K runs. Create your own festival. Create a fundraising event. Boston-based 451 Marketing calls it experimental marketing. Make it real, make it genuine, let them feel what you're trying to accomplish. Any questions on that before we jump into the sales process? I mean, these are my principles, so we get 20 people up here talking sales and they all have something different. So at the heart of a story is a unique selling proposition, a USP. What makes you different? We got 7 customers from Missouri. What makes everybody different? We got 6 customers in Detroit. Can you defend your UPS against your competitor? If you're a low price leader, it's easy to be undercut. Well, we invest in technology. We have Lightspeed. Well, so do they. My employees are really friendly. Don't fire them. fast service. I mean, we looked at the speedy service video from McDonald's yesterday. I mean, they were the first restaurant that actually created the concept of fast food. Before that, you had to go in and sit down and wait, 20 minutes to get a burger. So when you're developing your SP, use your story and how you got into the business. Build on the ideas that you created in your event. Make it difficult for competitors to follow. I know it's a broad statement. Yes, it's easy to say that. But how do you make it difficult for somebody to do what you can do? Drill it into every salesperson and employee what your story is. I'm sure Trey could tell Randy's story just as easily as I could because we've all heard it. I'm not sure our directors to tell the story. And we've done a poor job of telling our implementation team what our story is. Because they're the ones who have the first experience with Lightspeed is when they buy their system. Here's our UPS, revolutionizing order fulfillment. Plain and simple. We don't have to pick a Snickers bar. We can pick auto parts. We can pick plumbing parts. We can pick anything. We want to revolutionize order fulfillment. What does that look like? Well, we use traction to determine what our rocks are and what our goals are. And we have a BHAG. We have a 10-year BHAG. And we look at it every day. We look at it every week on our scorecard. Determine the stages of a sale. What steps or stages do your customers go through when they make a buying decision? The process of making a buying decision on Lightspeed is dramatically different than making a decision on whether or not to put your vending machine in the building. Our average days to close, 280 days. Almost a full year from the time we meet somebody to the time they actually have a system installed. There's a super long sales cycle. And you're all Lightspeed customers. And I know you're sitting there going, why would you wait so long to make a decision on Lightspeed? Some of you in this room were in my pipeline for 2 years. Everybody has a different trigger point. What's important is to understand what the stages are and what you need to do in every stage. And I'll share with you what we do. What elements are in each stage, and are you selling to a first-time buyer? Are you taking them from a competitor? Or are you flipping them from a vending machine to a market? Those are all completely different processes. So in Lightspeed, we have 4 stages. First one is contact. The second is consultation. The third is a demo quote. The fourth is a purchase agreement. And the activities that we do in that funnel are different in each one. Everything at the top, I don't know if you can see that, trade shows, warehouse U, digital ads, referrals, and website. Those are all marketing activities designed to put people into our funnel. And then once they're in the funnel, once they say, hi, I'm interested, they become a contact, and then within each stage, different activities happen. Mainly when we do a demo quote and consultation, some of those are done simultaneously on a site visit. Once you've determined what the stages are, then you have to be very aware of what stages happen within each one. So for us, when we're doing when contact, we're determining how many routes that you have, how many markets do you have, what providers do you use? Are you pre-kitting? Are you bulk picking? Are you using paper? Where are you in that process? We send them to the website to look at videos of you guys talking about how great Lightspeed is. We have several forms that we'll send them on things they need to do to get ready for pre-kitting. We spend as much time in our life teaching people how to pre-kit as we do selling Lightspeed. We are probably Streamware's best salesperson, or Cantaloupe, or Vensis, or 365, or Avanti. This is really important. This I learned from Vic Pemberton through Traction. What's important to the customer? What's important to the prospect? Not what's important to me. What's important to me is when can we sign a contract and install? What problem are we solving for you? Are you having problems with overtime? Are you having problems with mispicks? Do you not have any organization in your warehouse? What problem are we trying to fix for you? Under consultation, we do warehouse organization. Potentially we'll go on site. We do CAD drawings and show you where you should put your pick line and how many beds that you need and what our recommendations are there. We get a little deeper into pre-kitting. We introduce them to suppliers. We have several companies we use for carton flow shelving, so we'll introduce them there. We'll introduce them to other Lightspeed customers. I haven't sold a system in the past year that the prospect didn't want to talk to another customer. And Charles told me the story last night. His install was difficult. Not because Charles was difficult, but their provider's NetSuite, and that was the first time we were doing an integration with that provider. And NetSuite is an incredibly powerful piece of software for small to mid-sized manufacturers and distributors. Because it's powerful, it's also highly customizable, which is not very good for Lightspeed. Because for us, they had to figure out how to use NetSuite while we were trying to integrate with Lightspeed. And as they changed their operation, it would change the way that Lightspeed would need to communicate with NetSuite. So Charles was asked by NetSuite to talk to other customers. He became a point of contact for them to have prospects talk to. And then they raised his price and he stopped doing it. They should have paid you. They should have just paid you based on the referral. So the demo quote, we create an opportunity in our CRM. We use Sugar. I've got a couple slides. I'll show how we use our CRM to automate a lot of these processes. Demo quote is where I spend 90% of my time. These are people that we've met. We understand what their needs are. We understand the timeline that they're on. They're the ones that I'm trying to close as quickly as possible. One of the metrics on our scorecard, obviously, is sales. And we've actually determined that it's not really a number we need to be looking at. Because once you're under contract, we're going to close. What we have found, somebody pushes an install date 2 weeks out, which happens, we can't replace it. It's a lost revenue for us. That week now becomes open and we can't have anybody else just jump in and fill that spot. It's just like going to a vending machine. If I'm a Snickers guy and you don't have Snickers, when I come back tomorrow, I don't buy 2. I'm not going to make up for what I didn't buy yesterday. So for us, a more important number is what percentage of our third stage is closing, because that provides the new contracts. So the devils are in the details. A single misstep can blow up in your face. So I'm going to share with you something that's incredibly personal and extremely embarrassing, and it has nothing to do with vending, but I'm going to demonstrate how one single mistake can cost you. Like thousands of couples in this country, my wife and I have our own version of date night. We're newlyweds, just about a year. Lightspeed's a small office. We don't really go to happy hour. My wife runs an Amazon store out of her home. She deals with the dog and the cat all day long, so she doesn't work in an office. So we don't really have the opportunity to go to happy hour. So we create happy hour in our house on Fridays. So we make our own little appetizers and we have a couple of cocktails, and the rules are we've got to have some communication. So we sit out on the deck because she's talked to the dog and the cat all day long. She needs conversation. I talk all day and I don't want to talk when I get home. So at happy hour, we talk. So this particular night, God bless her, she tried to make fried pickles. Now, my wife is from Rochester, New York. They don't know what fried pickles are. I don't know what anything is fried up there. But she tried. They were okay. So we're outside, and obviously, date night, it's implied that there might be a little of activity later on that night. Because we plan this. It's on the calendar. So this particular night, went inside, watched a little HD TV, right? That's one of the 4 channels in our house that gets watched. That's her choice. Mine are Fox News and ESPN. We watch the DIY network. I'm going to call Pete Smith to build a tree house when I'm ready. We need a tiny house. I know where to go get a tiny house. But we watched a little bit of TV, and it was time to go upstairs. So go upstairs, and been traveling, I've been gone, I'm excited. So you want to set the mood. So we're getting ready. I say, Alexa, play Barry White. Barry White don't get you in the mood, nothing will. She's got this candle that you light it, and within 3 minutes it smells like Hawaii. It's coconut. So I light the candle. So I got Barry White playing in the background. I got a coconut candle that smells like Hawaii. Jump in the bed, we're excited, and she looks at me with her beautiful blue eyes and says, hey, you got a booger in your nose. She didn't say, honey, hey, you might want to, no. She said it with the directness of a 3-year-old. I fly out of the bed, run to the bathroom. For 30 seconds, I'm washing my face before I realize, dude, it's in your nose. Why are you washing your face? Alexa, pause. Had to put the handcuffs back in the drawer. I mean, it just ruined the whole night. One small detail in the world of Lightspeed, and one of the reasons my nickname of thermostat was earned, Hey, David, we're excited about our install next week. We can't wait. We're really pumped. What time are your guys going to be here on Monday? You kidding me? You don't know what time our guys are going to be there on Monday? Trey can hear me coming down the hall. To me, because you work so hard to get a customer to say yes. And you go to the last step. And they don't know when we're going to show up. Once you have your USP, sales stages have been identified, what tools do you need to manage it? So a CRM, customer relationship management. I know that Josh and Accent uses Salesforce. We use Sugar. There's a bunch of them out there. You can even use Outlook. It's not very good, but you can use Outlook. We use opportunities. So once somebody says, yes, I'm interested, and we give them a quote, that quote becomes an opportunity. A quota. That's a minimum number of sales I have to make in a quarter and a year in order for me to keep my job. The pipeline report is how we manage that. How many opportunities are in the first stage, how many opportunities are in the second stage, how many opportunities are in the third stage. So that kind of gives us an idea of what the funnel is looking like. So CRM will automate a lot of activities. It'll eliminate missing a lot of steps. It makes salespeople far more productive. I speak to that firsthand. I am 1,000,000 times more productive when I use the CRM. It gives you visibility of the process, and it shows where every prospect is and every sales rep is in the process. So this is my dashboard. These are tasks that have to be done. These are the opportunities that I'm managing. Those are meetings. And then these are the opportunities shown by a graph. And the first thing I do every morning is I turn Sugar on and I look at my dashboard. Now, I did this on purpose because none of these tasks are in red. When they're behind, the dates turn red. The dates get red squares around them. Because when you're chasing opportunities and a customer says, follow up with me. I got a customer in Alaska that I had been talking to for 3 years. And Tim called me 2 weeks ago. I pick up the phone. He goes, hey, I'm just calling you before you send me your 6-month email. I'm doing my job. Oh, sorry. So one of the things that I really like is down here, this marketing tag, we put people into 3 categories. Lead, not pre-kitting, lead, pre-kitting or markets, or drip. When we change that to lead, not pre-kitting, it triggers a 10 email campaign, and each email goes out 3 weeks apart. So they're going to get, over the course of 30 weeks, 1 email every 3 weeks from me with multiple steps in it. So the lead, not pre-kitting, the first email they get is a video clip of Craig Kushner that we got him on tape saying, if you're not pre-kitting, sell your company because your competition is going to take it away from you. That's the first email they get. I think on the lead pre-kitting, we use, Brian, the interview we did with you where we asked you, what would you say to people that are on the sidelines about technology? And you said, get in the game. And it's a series of different videos and clips and articles. The drip campaign, once a month we'll pick a topic to send out to everybody that is industry related so that we're just in front of you. Like we'll use the article that Lee was sharing from Cook County. I mean, that's the type of content that we put. It has nothing to do with Lightspeed, but I want my email address in your inbox. So quota is a predetermined sales story. You need to be realistic. If you have an outside sales force and you give them a quota that is not realistic, they're going to quit. You're going to lose them. We also adjust as we move forward. Things change. The economy changes. People's sales cycle changes. We usually set them short term and then we eventually move them to long term. And it really needs to be part of your typical sales cycle. For me to be realistic about doubling my quota with a 280-day time to close is not realistic. It's just not. If Randy came to me and said, in order to finish the year, you need to go book another $100,000 by December, I don't know if I can do that because of the sales cycle. I don't know what the sales cycle is to determine whether or not you have a vending machine in your building or not, but if your sales cycle is 30 days, then you adjust the sales quotas accordingly. What's the average volume of an account? So for Lightspeed, once we sell you a system, our annual volume from you is just your annual. So depending on what system you have, it's 3,500, 5,000, something like that. It's not very big. But what's the agile annual volume, average days to close? What are the number of potential prospects in your territory? For a canteen franchise, you're kind of landlocked. You can't go outside of a specific geographical territory. You may not have enough prospects in a territory to be able to really expect a salesperson to do anything of value. How many pre-qualified prospects are in the pipeline? Rod Nestor gives me 3 people. I can close them a whole lot faster than if I have to go find them myself. Are the sales reps going to do their own prospecting? Every salesperson I know that's worth his weight wants to control the marketing. Because marketing people and salespeople don't see eye to eye because their metrics are different. Marketing people get paid on number of impressions and how many times people click through. Salespeople get judged on how many sales they make. So they're always complaining about the leads they get are crap. And the marketing people always complain about the salespeople don't know how to close. So are they going to do their own prospecting, or do you have a marketing department that's going to do that for them? This is what our pipeline looks like. So we look at this every single week. So this is sales stage 2, which is consulting, and right now we've got $286,000 in that particular category. I look at this report every week. Randy gets an email to him every week. We have notes over here that says what's going on. And again, this is a stage that's very, very, very slow. This is when people are kicking the tires, they're talking to other people. It takes a long time to get them to the next step. So let's talk about salespeople. In my humble opinion, there's 2 primary types of salespeople. 1, hunters, and 2, farmers. I don't know if she's a real farmer or not, but I love the picture and I wanted to put it in the presentation. The characteristics of these 2 types of individuals could not be any more further apart. So a hunter is highly motivated by the chase. Do not let your daughters marry hunters because they want to go. They're always looking for the next deal. They always want something better. Farmers are phenomenal relationship builders. Hunters aren't afraid of cold calling. They get a thrill out of that. They don't mind making 100 calls a day. And farmers are petrified. Millennials are horrible prospectors. They don't want to talk to anybody. They really thrive on high commission. You can pay them a very low base and a very high commission, and they will run as hard as they can run. Whereas farmers, they prefer a more stable compensation. You don't need to supervise hunters. If they're not making enough base to pay the mortgage and they know they got to sell every day, you don't have to supervise them. They're going to sell. Farmers need hand-holding. They're relationship builders. You got to nudge them a little bit. If you can't give them enough business, hunters will leave for the next big deal. Farmers want homes. They want to put a root down. They want to stay. They want to build those relationships with your customers. Qualities of a great salesperson. 1, they have to be coachable. They have to be coachable and they have to accept feedback. They have to be curious. Why? I didn't know the first thing about vending when Randy said, why don't you come to work for Lightspeed? Not the first thing. I bet I asked him 5,000 questions the first 6 months I was involved. I was like a 2-year-old. Why? 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 Intelligent. You have to be able to master a subject. I know that there are technical questions to Lightspeed that I can't answer, and I've learned how to very politely and professionally tell them that I'm stupid and don't understand how to answer that question. I get Trey involved. They got to be hardworking, putting in the time and the energy, and they have to be previously successful. These are the 5 qualities that I look for in a salesperson. I'm going to show you how we applied these. So which one's right for your business? Depends. There's no right answer to this. So here's how I did it. So when I was in Infinity, remember we were a startup in a brand new category that did not exist prior to us being there. Nobody bought competitive cheerleading shoes. You could buy a cheer shoe, it's $39, and we were trying to convince them that our competitive shoe was worth $79. So we had a new category. The pitch was to buy a $35 pair, not $70. We're a women's athletic company. We were 3 years old with very, very little brand recognition. Our target customer base was 80% women and 10% or 20% men. I hired young hunters. All female staff. I wanted my sales staff to look like my customer. I wanted them to be authentic. I wanted them to look like they could wear the product or had worn the product. That was the story. This is a competitive cheerleading shoe. A dude like me is not going to be able to make that pitch. They had to be a prior cheerleader or a prior coach. They needed to be authentic to be able to tell their story in the first person. When I cheered, I wish I had this shoe. When I coached, I wish my kids could have had this shoe. I can't make that argument. Do I look like a cheerleader? I wanted them to have a marketing degree because I wanted them to be creative and be able to tell our story. Because at the heart of their presentation was their personal story. This was really interesting. The pitch was, this is the perfect career for women who wanted both family and a career. They work from home. They set their own hours. They weren't married at the time, so you go out and you bust your tail, build a book of business, and by the time you get ready to have babies, you can work from home. 3 of those first women I hired went on to become $1 million producers. And 2 of them were interns in our office that were majoring in marketing, sports marketing, thinking they were going to make a whole bunch of money. So you told them how long it took for them to actually make money in that vertical. Because everybody works for $20,000 a year forever until you make any money in sports marketing. So at Rebel, different story. I wanted relationships. We didn't have to convince people to buy a cheerleading uniform. We had to convince them to buy our cheerleading uniform. That product had existed for years. Brand new company. When I started, it was just a year old. They had just done $1 million in sales. Brand new category. Our story was we were the first company to manufacture cheerleading uniforms in China. The owner family had a manufacturing facility over there. She had a dance background. She saw how much everybody was charging for uniforms. And obviously, if you see cheerleading on ESPN, everybody puts a million rhinestones on uniforms now. We could deliver landed for under $100 a product that we could sell for $5 that our competitor couldn't sell for less than $7. So we had a distinct manufacturing advantage. So this was not, hey, buy a cheerleading uniform. This was buy my uniform. And we were going up against a competitor that had 70% market share. We were nobody. And it was extremely customizable. Nothing got more customized than a cheerleading uniform when you got a coach involved. Because we had the ability to make whatever uniform they wanted to. We had designers, we had pattern makers, we had people over there that could do anything you wanted to when it came to uniforms. So I hired experienced farmers. I wanted somebody who already had relationships with these people, somebody they trusted. They were going to buy a uniform. I just wanted them to buy my uniform. They needed a book of relationships. I needed former coaches. I needed people that had been in the industry that didn't have to do a whole lot of cold calling, that they had a group of people that they could actually call on and have a conversation with. Hey, take a look at this Rebel uniform. They had to have a track record of success. Nothing was more important to me in finding people who were winners. Because again, when you're going up against somebody who owns 75% of the market, you need somebody who's not going to take no for an answer. You need somebody who isn't going to accept anything less than winning. And I also knew, because of the level of customization, that we were going to have delivery issues, and I was right, and that was the main reason I left the company. So the best thing we could do was to have someone that already had an existing relationship with the customer who could manage that part of the process. And it is not funny. And it is not pleasant. These coaches were buying $300 and $400 and $500 uniforms for children who would wear them 8 times over the course of the year. And you're going to tell me I'm going to miss 3 of those because of your delivery issues? So we needed people who were mature, had relationships, and could manage that process. Which type is right for your business? What does your customer look like? What do you want your customer to look like? I am not the person you want to hire to go sell to millennials. I don't look like them. I don't understand them. I can't talk to them. I could not sell to a millennial. With Rebel, we used a draw against commission. It was fully commissionable. We paid 10%, had plenty of margin to do that. And the more experienced they were, the bigger the draw that we would pay them. And we started out at $4,000 a month. The first year, out of 10 salespeople, we only had 2 that actually made enough to cover their draw. With Infinity, because they were kids, didn't have families, we were paying them, I don't know, $28,000 or something like that. And then they got a small commission on top of that. And then as their sales grew, we started changing the compensation so that it was more incentive driven and less base. So the three girls that were making over $1 million, they were all making probably $80,000, $90,000, and at 25 was not bad. So the type of person you hire is the type of customer you're going to attract. Too many times people hire someone that doesn't look anything like their customer, and they don't understand why they can't sell anything. What type of sale or growth are you chasing? Do you want to expand your existing base of business? Do you want to go to your existing customers and sell them more? Or do you want new customers? Those are different qualities in a salesperson that you need to consider before you do it. And how much opportunity is there? Again, I talk to guys like Dan Holt at Lincoln County. I mean, Dan's happy, but he's landlocked. He can't go outside his territory, and there's not a whole lot more customers that he can go get. So how much opportunity is there in your market? And again, this is big. If you're going to have them do their own prospecting, you got to pay them to live while they get to the point where they're making money. Nothing scares a salesperson more than not knowing if they're going to be able to close enough sales to be able to pay the mortgage that month. So there's a balance there. So compensation, personally, I like 50-50. If I was starting a company today and hiring salespeople, I'd want half of their compensation to be base, half to be commission. Comp has to be based on opportunity. What's the competition paying? Good salespeople are never unemployed. Never. Personally, I said good salespeople are never unemployed. And most of the time they don't quit because someone's going to steal them from you before they have a chance to quit. With the software guys, the guys selling Oracle and things like that, I mean, they're making $500,000 a year, but their sales cycle in some cases is 3 years. I don't care how good the commission is, if you can't eat for 3 years, you're not going to stay very long. They're going to hunt and farm. They're going to be farmers. They're going to be hunters. Here's a chart that I put together. So if your average contract value is $25,000 and their quota is $500,000, they need 20 deals to make that happen. That's 1.67 deals per month. That's with a close ratio of 27%. That's 6 leads per month they have to have. It's not hard. Just figure out what you want them to do, what they have to do to get it. I mean, is it realistic to expect a salesperson to basically close 2 new customers a month in your markets? If it is, well, you got a starting point to base their compensation on. So, again, number of deals needed. So base salary would be $25,000 with a total. So again, this PowerPoint's in your thumb drive as well to look at this. Number 1, learn to tell a good story. Your story. I cannot stress that is the most powerful tool you'll have, is tell your story. Whatever it is, learn to tell it well. Number 2, own your UPS. What is different about you? Creative event. If you get an invitation from Lightspeed next year to come to the Warehouse Awards, you'll know where that idea came from. Use your customers as your sales force. Follow up forever. There are people that Randy gave me a lead the first month that I was with Lightspeed that he gave me on a white piece of paper that are still getting emails and still getting follow-up from me. Develop a solid sales process. Determine if you want hunters or farmers. What type of sales do you want? Invest in the right tools. Don't ever give anybody the end piece. And always blow your nose before sex.